An unprecedented high court ruling on Sunday going largely unnoticed, overshadowed by current events. But mostly right-wing lawmakers, including in the opposition, are crying foul, accusing the courts of an extra-constitutional coup. The courts decided 6-3 to essentially overturn a basic law amendment that allowed for an addition to the interim 2020 budget to help with COVID pandemic relief. Critics are saying that the court is assuming authority to overturn legally approved legislation. Here with more, Professor Avi Bell, Faculty of Law at Ilan University. Professor, thanks so much for joining us. Now, first, let's talk about the court's ruling. They said that the bill allowing continued funding without passing a state budget was a misuse of the Knesset's authority. Do you agree?
Well, that's exactly what they said. They said it's a misuse of the Knesset's, quote, constitutional authority. And by that, they mean that the Knesset actually followed all the rules in passing the law, but that the court disagrees with its judgment, that the way that the Knesset arrived at its decision was, among other things, as a result of political bargaining. And the court said that if it's a result of political bargaining, that's misuse of Knesset authority, and the court can strike it down. Now, what this really means is that the court can strike down any legislation it wants, anytime it disagrees with the judgment of the Knesset. That the final judge on all legislation is actually what the three-judge panel in the court thinks is the right course of action, and not what the elected representatives of the people think.
So now, again, let's talk about what the role of the court in Israel is. Did the court overstep? Because isn't it, at least in part, the High Court's job to interpret the legality of Knesset actions and act as a sort of check and balance in government?
Well, all this is all the power that they're asserting here. The power to overturn laws is not one that the court has been given in any law. The doctrine that they are using, the one that says that the court may strike down legislation when, in its judgment, the Knesset misused its power by doing things that the court would not do. That's not encapsulated in any law either. All this is made up. All this is a set of powers that the court has given to itself outside of any law. And frankly, I have to say, if there were another body looking at the court, I think that they would call this misuse of judicial powers.
All right. So again, can you speak a little bit about what effects this ruling has, what precedent it sets for the future, and is there any sort of appeal process or anything that is being done to negate it?
Well, there's no appeal process. The only thing that anyone can do about this ruling is to pass a law. But of course, the court has already said that it won't respect any Knesset law that disagrees with the judgment of the court. So the court has found a way to make itself the absolute final rule on whether what is the law in Israel. Now, this is something that they've taken of their own, and it ultimately leads to a clash. Now, in this particular case, the court's judgment has no practical effect because all these expenditures have already gone out the door. The budget of 2020 is no longer relevant. Right? So there's no practical result. The court was simply setting down a marker that it has the ability to do anything it wants. It can overrule any Knesset legislation for any reason, any time that the court thinks that its judgment is better. And that sets up, I think in the not too distant future, a serious clash between the democratically elected officials of Israel and the court. The court is putting itself out there as the alternative rulers of the state, and it can't go on like this.
All right. Well, in the not too distant future, when we see or don't see the results of this ruling, I'd love to have you back to discuss. Professor Avi Bell, thank you so much.
Thank you.